Everybody, this is Laura Meeks. This is Laura Meeks Show Live. We're running a tad bit late, a little technology issue this morning, but really great show today. We have today with us Courtney Kittrell. She wrote this particular book. It's called Unapologetically Favored. She is a veteran of the Transformation Talk Radio. Courtney, you've already done the Dr. Pat show, correct?
Oh yes, I love Dr. Pat.
Dr. Pat is fabulous. She is a wonder, and she shared your information with me, and I think this is going to be a great show. Um, a lot of to introduce you to the audience, and I have to say to the audience that Laura Mink Show, Dream On, Fly High, Live Adventurously. A lot of the work that I do is kind of hinged around helping people reach their highest potential
Hmm.
in life. And one of the things that excites me, Courtney, about the work that you've done in the book that you've created is that I find it very helpful. I think that the journey that you've been on, and I'll share as we go through this a little bit of the journey that I've been on, because there's some parallels, right, on some of the stuff that we have done. What I but part of the issue for the audience is Courtney was in the military. She was an enlisted Navy person. You left, as I understand, senior chief, correct? EH.
Yes, well, I'm leaving hopefully next year. Hopefully retirement
Oh,
next year.
really? Okay. Well, see, yeah, it's been a while for me. I retired in '95, so I've been. You may get to this spot in your life. It's a funny spot where I have been out longer than I've been in. I
Okay.
mean, when you're in, it seems like wow, this is going to take forever. But
Hmm.
a 20-year career just I think zips by, and I've been out more than 20 years. Um, but here's Courtney. Here's where I'd like to go. Part of your story for the audience purposes is that you are a woman in the military.
Yes.
You are a woman of color in the military, and you're part of the GLBT community in the military. So I too now interesting. My part of my story is that while I was in the military,
Hmm.
I did know that I was transgender, but in the land of where the flow of military acceptance has gone, uh, in the '90s they had crafted up "Don't Ask, Don't Tell."
Yes.
I was before that in the "Don't Tell, Hell No, Don't Tell" spot, where so there was no there acceptance and to put it in perspective, huge part of my career, or early part of my career, was merely the acceptance of having uh, people of color in the military. That was our big thing. We had a lot of seminars and
Hmm.
uh, information to integrate the military service, at least the Air Force. So uh, considering where they were starting way back there in the '70s to get to GLBT acceptance is another issue. But one of the things that's real important to me, and where I kind of want to start, uh, deals with just the military experience for one, and then kind of tie in being a woman in the military. My wife was a career military. She retired as an '05 lieutenant colonel.
Hmm.
Uh, when she was in the military, there were 3% of the officer corps was women.
Hmm.
So I mean, the beauty of your story, I think, is you've captured all of the challenges into one nice package. you, you've hurdled over all of those things. So let's start with this. Tell me some positive things about the military, because I have to tell you, I had overall a really great experience, and I think it's valuable to people to join the military. How about you?
Oh, I most definitely. The military is great, especially if you are not 100% sure about what you want to do with your life or how to get to the next level, whether it's schooling or just building upon, professionalism or building a resume for yourself. I think the military, no matter what branch, is a good thing. It's if you sit down with somebody that can guide you through the process. If there's something that you like and you love, a hobby, an interest that piques you, then try to do that in the military so you can build your resume, your skills, your certifications, qualifications while the military is paying for it. And I tell people the new kids coming in, the new babies when they come in, I'll actually talk to them and I'll ask them, are you coming in career minded or is this just a stopping point in your life? Because everybody's goals and intentions are different. Some people are like, yes, I want this to be a career. I don't want to do anything else. Some people are like, well, I just didn't know what to do. My parents didn't have money for school, so I figured I'd come to the military and go to school, forgetting that we could go to work one day. So I'll ask them,
Yeah, there's that one aspect of this job is you could be going over
I
to
ask them,
work.
what do you want to do? And they'll tell me. So I'll always let them know, look, set yourself up for success on the outside while you are still on the inside. Because it might come to a point where you get to 2 years or 40 years or however long your first enlistment is, where you decide that this is not for you, or life happens and you have to get out for unknown circumstances, whatever. At least you have something to fall back on. So the military, in that aspect, as far as being good, it is extremely good when it comes to building a person up for the outside world.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. There no one in my family ever was in the military. I had one overriding goal, and that was to fly airplanes. I had gotten my flying license as a teenager, and it broke the bank, and I knew that I there was no way that I could really go much further than that on my own. So I looked around for opportunity, and I think, excuse me, that's part of what the military offers is an opportunity.
Yes.
And if you can match kind of your where you think you want to go with the opportunity, then it was worthwhile. I know, my whole goal was to get into pilot training. um, let's ask it let me go down this road for a second. Right when I got into ROTC,
Hmm.
I when you join ROTC, they kind of categorize you as a pilot or other
Hmm.
jobs. And so I came in, and there was really no qualification at the beginning. So I just said I want to be a pilot, and they said, yeah, you're in the program. But as time went on, then they said, well, you need to get a scholarship. And so I tested for a scholarship, did really good, got a scholarship. When I went over there to sign it, the colonel says, there's this one thing, and this is where I've learned to is like listen very carefully when they say there's this one thing,
Hmm.
because he said, well, this is actually not a pilot scholarship. This is a navigator scholarship. And I said, okay, well then I'm out. I don't want that. And he goes, no, 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 no. Here's how you do it: is you sign here on the dotted line. You can be a navigator, and then next year when you come back, we're going to upgrade it, and you'll be a pilot. So that way you get a scholarship and you'll be a pilot. Ooh, life is good. 18 years old, I buy into that. When I came back at the end of the summer, he had retired. My first little fuzzy feeling, this is not going well. And part of the reason that I stayed in so long is that the it turns out there was no way for me to get out of that contract. I
Hmm.
spent the first 6 years of my career as a navigator trying to get back into pilot training, which I eventually did get back into pilot training. So in the land of welcoming people to the military, part of that is to be uh, open and cautious
Yeah.
as to what exactly they say. Because in your book, one of the things that you talk about, and I will let's say that one more time: unapologetically favored. Courtney Kittrell. You can get it on Amazon. It works very well.
Yeah.
Uh, that's how I got it. Um, One of the things that you mentioned in your book was the fact that you kind of came in and they said, well, there's a bunch of things you could do,
Yeah.
and then they said, oh yeah, there's this aviation thing. Maybe you should try that. It's like, oh, okay, I'll go that way, and then that kind of opened up a whole new world versus I think the things that they were telling you could do at the beginning. True.
Yes, when I first came in, I have an uncle. He retired as a E6, a first class petty officer. So he eventually guided me through the process. But in the very beginning, recruiters come out and they just want to make sure they get people in. They have certain criteria they have to use to get certain people in different programs, backgrounds, male, females, etc.
Yeah.
So I came in and they offered me, I think the first one was an SH, which is a ship storekeeper. Now I think it's a retail service provider. They keep changing the names of it.
Yeah.
Would mean
To
that
protect the innocent.
aircraft carriers, I would be stocking vending machines or working in the barber shop, cutting hairs on the ships, or at the time also dry cleaning for officers and the crew on the ship.
Yeah.
And my
Oh,
process was, I don't want to do that when I get out the Navy. I don't want to stock Pepsi machines or work in a barber shop or run my own dry cleaning services. I wanted to do something that was going to make me marketable, so to speak, when I got out, make me put a little more money in my pocket if I decided I
yeah.
didn't want to be in for these 20 years. So I talked to my uncle, and he was like, "That is not what you want to do." So he put some nuggets in my pocket. I went back down to the recruiting station with my mother, and it was like, "No, this is not what's going to happen." So they gave me a book, and we're flipping through it, and they said, "Well, we do have an undesignated airman, which means for the Navy, you go in without a job. You get a chance to kind of experience a different job in the aviation field. Then, when it comes time for your advancement exam, you can choose what exam you want to take, and then that's how you would get your job, your rating
Yeah.
or MOS. And that's what I did. So I came in undesignated with no job, and I was like, you know what? I don't think this hard work and turning rich into things is for me. So I was looking for something in the office. I was like, oh, they get to sit in the office all they do is paperwork. I think I'll try that. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. And 20 years later, I am still kicking it.
Yeah, well, and I love that. For those that are listening, again, I think there's incredible opportunities in the military as long as you understand, kind of what you're going in for, and to be. In my world as a pilot, I talk a lot about vision and visioning and flight planning and knowing where you want to go. And I will say that as an 18-year-old, it's somewhat hard to maybe have a career vision. But I mean, you were very clear that, well, dry cleaning, not the thing that I was really looking for, guys. I was thinking maybe something else. And interestingly, if you stick to your vision or your flight plan or your what you want to do in the military and say, well, that's not quite it. Give me another chance. Give me another idea. Let's try something else. Eventually, you'll get a pretty good match, I think, of what you want to do. I think the challenging thing is when you just stumble into the recruiter's office and, yeah, give me whatever. Yeah, they'll give you whatever.
Exactly. And you'll regret it in like the first month you get to your first command.
Yeah. So let's go down the road. First, a woman of color in the military.
Hmm.
Now, you're probably 20 years after me. Uh, Women of color, I don't think I saw many in the Air Force
Hmm.
when I was in. How challenging is that now?
In the beginning, well, the first command I went to, women period, it was an all male command. So they were slowly integrating females into this new command that I went to. So it was rough in the beginning. I had a couple of stumbling blocks. I had a couple of lessons taught, but I think it toughened me because I had to. It sucks that sometimes you have to prove yourself a little bit more than your male counterparts. It sucks that if a female is having a bad day or she's upset about something, we're emotional, we have a smart mouth, we have a nasty attitude. But if a male does the same thing, then it's like, oh yeah, look at him, he's over there, he's mad. Oh,
He's
it's okay,
kicking.
man. It's a different mindset. And I think that part sucks. But when I first came in, not only just being a female, but then I was like, I was African American female. And like you said, I didn't have that many women of color that I saw in leadership positions at the same time as
Yeah.
well. And people cling on to what's comfortable to them, to what they know. So I eventually I had a first class, Sandra Broadwater. Her and I are friends to this day. She was like my first real direct supervisor or leader at my first command, and I watched her every step. Unbeknownst to her at the time, I was watching her because I needed to know how to move and how to get through my days and how to get through, trials and tribulations as they were coming up. Because there was no mentor program back then. You just
Yeah.
found somebody, you watched them without being creepy, and you tried to emulate them because you saw them being successful, or they were where you imagined yourself being one day, and that's what you did. You clung on to that, but it my only thing was sometimes, people don't realize there's office etiquette. They don't have situational awareness or office awareness. So jokes would fly or comments would be made. And still to this day, you have to still watch what you say because people think they get too comfortable and they forget there's other people around. And
Yeah.
you have to be mindful that just because you are one way at home and you don't care, you can say and do whatever you want. When you come to work, in a business setting, whether it's the military or the civilian life, you got to be mindful of the people that you're speaking around. You got to be mindful of the jokes that you're telling because just because it didn't offend somebody yesterday doesn't mean that it won't offend somebody today. So I didn't have it extremely bad, but it wasn't extremely great either.
Yeah, well, and in my case, I have to say I have a unique perspective in that in a lot of the presentations that I give, and I talk about the things that have happened before my transition, after my transition. But when you think about it, I really started way up here. I was a tall white guy, college
Hmm.
educated, in the military, flying airplanes in the land of who had privilege. I mean, I had privilege. Uh, Part of the value I think that I bring to society and to people that I talk to is a fact is that when I stepped off that platform, and we're going to talk about this after the break, I think a little bit about part of the challenge of the vision of who they think you are up here,
Hmm.
and then the idea that I'm not that person that you see me as, and do I step off the ledge and become authentically me, and in the process, in my case, in the process I'm losing that incredible white male privilege that I had, and
Hmm.
I'm dropping in my experience. I mean, I dropped like from the top to the bottom because I all of a sudden I'm no longer a tall white male, and I'm not really female in the fact that I'm, naturally born women. So now I'm down here in the transgender world, which kind of in many cases is bumbling around on the bottom. And all of a sudden I'm, one of the challenges that I find that people in the transgender world have, especially male to female, is that it's awfully it becomes very apparent what you gave up, because
Hmm.
just and I'll use you as an example. You walk into an all male part of the ship, you're in your office and they're starting to do their guy thing and fist bump, and we're talking about the stuff we did last night, and all of a sudden they look over and there you are, and you're like, hey, now,
Hmm.
I'm in the room, and I love, you guys can be guys over there, but we're working here,
Hmm.
and I'm part of that. And I don't want to be, this part of this guy thing. I'm not a guy.
But I
So
think
let's
it's crazy because
let's integrate.
they just they fear what they don't know. And if you are different, they don't understand, they don't know, they can't relate, so they don't have any empathy. So they look at you as if you're beneath them. If you are not part of the masses, then you're not part of anything, like in some people's eyes. And I think that goes
Yeah.
for anything where it comes to sexuality, gender, race, creed, religion, all that. If you're not a part of the masses, then it's like, well, who are you? Well, then you're beneath me because the rest of us over here are purple and you're green. You don't belong with us, so just go away. Instead of embracing difference, instead of embracing change, instead of learning something new about something that you never even experienced
Yeah.
before, people don't do that. They would rather fight it or run from it.
Well, with that, I think that's a great spot. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, part of what I want to keep following down that path a little bit, because I do think that I found in my world that part of my responsibility as a transgender woman is to help educate people from that. Yes, I'm an other. I'm not, in your sphere, but that's not to be feared. I can laugh, I can enjoy a joke, I can be part of you, and you can learn about me, and we can get along and work together, and it can work out. But there is a responsibility that comes upon me
Yeah.
to do that in a way that integrates us in, rather than the traditional, hey, shut up, I'm here, that kind of tends to make that. So we're going to take a quick break. We're here with Courtney Kittrell, Unapologetically Favored. Great book. I recommend getting it on Amazon. When we come back, we're going to follow this line of thinking of how we can integrate ourselves into the world. Thanks. Hey, this is Laura Meeks. Welcome back to the Laura Meeks Show. They dream on, fly high, live adventurously. That's my tagline. We're here today with Courtney Kittrell. She is a woman of color and a military, active military person. Many of you know I spent a career in the Air Force flying B-52 bombers, and loved every second of it. Uh, Part of what we were talking about before we went on the break, uh, there is a responsibility, I think, and we shared some things while we were on the break. Often how this comes in, but talk to me about uh, being a woman and being a gay woman in the military. When people find out, then all of a sudden there's this moment like, whoa, how do we talk now? Tell me how that goes.
Well, it's funny because a lot of the times people have this perception of a lesbian, and like I was speaking before during the break that people come up to me and I'll say, "Oh man, I didn't know you were gay. You don't look gay."
You don't look
In
gay.
my head, what
How
does
does
gay
that
look
look?
like? What is that perception, that the stereotype that I got a mouth full of dip, I got on a trucker hat, I'm rocking like flag, button down, flannel shirt, just every other word is the F bomb. And I'm like, no, that's not a thing, because people have this perception of what something looks like, and it's a stereotype. And stop the perception, it needs to stop. So when they do find out, who I really am, and I'm transparent, I don't hide anything. I end up getting a lot of questions, inquiries, and requests for help. Like, I found out my child came out of the
Yeah.
closet. They told me they were gay. I don't know what to do, what to say. How do I talk to them? I know they're gay, but they're not telling me anything. And it's amazing. But my thing is, once you are comfortable with who you are as an individual, once you have that confidence piece and you know who you are and you own it, your walk is a little different, your shine is a little different. You exude something that attracts people. And now, instead of them being afraid to talk to you or ask you questions, now they're more inquisitive and they want to know, who are you? So what happened? So how does this make you feel? Well, what do I do now that, my child has said, hey, I'm gay or I am a lesbian? How do I handle that? And I love sitting down and talking to people. And when they found out about the relationship life, they're like, oh, you're no different, no different than a
Yeah,
husband
it's
and
like
wife. Yeah, we have the same problems. If I get mad at my wife, yeah, we get mad at each other sometimes, but I'm still gonna cook her dinner and make sure she's
yes,
okay.
we're
But
still human. It's still part of the brand.
same arguments we have. We go to sleep, we wake up, we go to work, have a good day, honey. I'll see you later. It's the same thing. But a lot of the times people just have whatever perception that was given to them growing up. They keep that until we are able to go in there and just untie everything and then repackage it the right way so they know who we are.
Courtney, I'm gonna take you down that path, because you didn't start out that way, nor did I.
No.
One of the challenges that I found is I grew up as a middle class white boy going to an all boys school, and with our education, when we come into this world, and I call these paradigms, that it's kind of the when you're born, your parents and your teachers and your family teach you, this is how the world works, this is what's going on there.
Mhm.
And you mentioned in your book, men date women, and then they get married, they have kids. That's how the world works.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, you're like matching yourself into this environment. And for me, one of the things that I found very interesting is that people often ask, well, did you know when you were born, or when you were young, did you know you're transgender? I didn't know I was transgender. What I knew was I was different. I was
Yes.
different than my brothers. I was different than the guys at my school. And it really became apparent when I was in college because I joined a fraternity of all things. And these guys were thinking differently,
Mm-hmm.
much differently than I was. And it wasn't until I was actually 31, 32 years old that I finally had a term, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. This is who I am. But with that came this, oh my God, I'm in this box over here of these outlanders, of these outcast people. And oh, I know I'm one of them, but oh man, there's so many problems. And do I really want to be that? And there
Mm-hmm.
was a long-term process, a number of years for me to grapple with that. I'm a transgender woman. I'm a transgender woman. And there was a point, a very specific point in my life where I was on uh, the Beltway in Washington, D.C., stuck in traffic. And I actually reached up to my mirror, my rear view mirror, and I turned it right so I could see myself. And I looked around, no one's around, no one's recording me. And I looked in the mirror and I said, Laura, you're a transgender woman. And I have to say, for me, that was an incredible moment of self acceptance. And one of the things that you said is once you accept who you are, the world changes.
It
You're
does.
people all of a sudden when before that people would say, well, your hair's kind of long, and I'm like, oh God, what if they find out I'm transgender? It's like, oh no, 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 I just I like long hair.
Yes.
But when all of a sudden I'm happy as being a transgender woman, and they say your hair is long, I say, yeah, I'm a transgender woman. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay. And then it was like there's a certain amount of acceptance from other people when you're okay. When you say, "Hey, I'm a lesbian," they go, "Oh, okay, great.
Mm-hmm. And
True
because
for you? Tell me about that."
so you have to have the conviction. I believe you really have to have a conviction. And my story was I was living in this world where, like you mentioned before, everybody, man, wife, 2.3 kids, white picket fence,
You
pretty
mentioned
green
that in your book.
grass,
It's
Labrador
one boy,
yard.
one girl. Yeah.
Yes, everything is just glorious. And I was trying to fit that image because I didn't know anybody else that was like me. Growing up, I'm from North Carolina and, still kind of south, but not all the way down south. But, Southern Baptist Church growing up, you go to church and the pastor's preaching, you're going to hell if you commit this sin, you're going to hell if you like this prayer. I was like, I don't want to go to hell. I don't want to get burnt up. So you don't tell anybody anything. You keep everything to yourself because you don't want to be like a disappointment to your parents who want the best for you and are expecting you to go out and just do everything and save the world. So you can't talk to your parents about anything. You don't know anybody else that is like you. So you're trying to figure it out on your own. You're like, oh, it's just a bad cold. I'll get over it. Let me move on with my life. But it's
Yeah.
not a bad cold. You are like it's something that you're never ever going to get rid of because it's just who you are. So I grew up trying to appease the world instead of living for myself, instead of living in my truth. I was living in everybody else's perception of the truth that they thought how I should be, and I wasn't happy. I got married, and and it was sad because the guy was a good guy. Mike was a good guy, and I felt bad even to this day. I was selfish because those were years of his life that was taken away that he can't get back because I wasn't up and upfront and honest with
Yeah.
myself. So I drug him through this, and when everything came to a head, it was just I was so numb to the situation because I did not know what to say. I was not sorry for who I was, but I was sorry that I drug him through this, and then this is how he found out because I was too selfish and couldn't just be upfront and honest. But since then, I tell people, you have to own who you are. Once
Uh,
you own who you are and you have conviction and they see that you have confidence, people will not mess with you. But the minute that you show your weakness, the minute that you show that you are uncomfortable, that is when they're going to nitpick at everything you do, at every move you make, at every word that comes out of your mouth all
yeah.
day.
Well, and it's interesting. You can relate to this in some regard. One of the challenges of being transgender is it says I actually have to change my physical appearance.
Hmm.
And so as time goes on, I mean, I'm starting over here in the guy world, and then I'm going to grow my hair long, and I'm going to wear some makeup, and eventually we get to the spot where typically transgender people want to test it out and see if they can pass in society without like getting beat up or whatever. And
Hmm.
typically that means going to the mall. And it's so funny because the very first thing that happens is that a transgender person will walk into the mall and they'll look around. They'll look around. It's like, do they see me? Do they see me? You know, am I walking right? Do they are they looking at me? And just by the very fact that you're doing that, that's not what normal people do when they go into the mall. Then more normal people walk, just go walk, and they go to the
Yeah,
store. If all of a sudden you're scouting out everybody and wondering, that's like unusual behavior, and all of a sudden people go, "What's with her?" Or, "Oh my God, I think I know what's going on." And I think that's part of what happens when you find yourself authentically, then you can just be you. I'm just walking into the mall. Now, let me ask you
exactly.
this though. Tell me about for the people that are out there, because one of the things that you said is so very true. For umpteen years, I was sure I was the only person that ever had this issue. And then when I figured it out, I found two people in a chat room.
Yes,
And honestly, your aunt, what you said was exactly what there's another one of me. There's
exactly.
two people over there that have the same thing that I have. There's three of us in the world now.
Yes,
Not realizing that there's hundreds of thousands of us, but
yes.
when you're there, that's what you're feeling. It's like I can't tell my parents, I can't tell my friends, I can't tell anybody, and then all of a sudden you find somebody. I think that's getting better. But tell me, for a young person that's sitting here listening to us talk and says, "Yeah, I can't tell my mom. Where do you go? What do you do?"
I just tell them to be your true self. It is going to be hard. The pressure is there because today's society, we are so worried about how people look at us. We are so worried about what people think about us. And I tell people, what somebody else eats does not make you go to the bathroom. So why do you worry about them? You live your life for you. You do what you have to do for you because the same people are going to talk about you regardless. If if I'm confident in how I am and being a lesbian, they'll talk about my shoes. They might think my shoes are ugly. People are going to talk. It's just going to be a thing, and we just have to understand that. And a lot of the times when people do talk about you, one is because they actually want to know how, what, where, why, but they don't know how to address the situation because they're curious. They want to know, but they don't know how to confront it. But just living your true self and know that when you walk through the mall, people are looking at you, but they're not looking at you because of the reason you think they might be looking at you. They're
Yeah.
looking at you because you don't have any confidence and you're walking through looking funny, like what's going on? Why? So the attention's not being drawn because of who you are. It just may be drawn because you are not comfortable and you're
Yeah.
trying to to yourself.
Well, and one of the things that there was another moment for me that was a real kind of an eye opener, because I'm 6'3". I'm a really tall woman,
Hmm.
and so when I'm walking around, especially at the beginning, I'm thinking, "Wow, they're going to figure this out in no time flat," because I'm like really tall, and especially kids are aware of height differences.
Hmm.
So one day I was in like a 7-Eleven getting coffee, and I'm in line. There's a whole bunch of people, and the guy in front of me is like a dad with a little girl. And the little girl looks up and she goes, "Wow, you're really tall." And I thought, "Oh man, they figured it out. They know I'm transgender." But I thought, let me see if that's true. And I said, "Well, I'm tall because I drink milk. And if you drink milk, you can get as tall as me."
I love it.
And she's just like, "Wow." And then the dad turns around and goes, "Stop bothering that woman." And I thought, Yeah, it worked. It's not them, it's me. It's me that's worried about this, not them. They're not worried about it. But let's go. I want to talk about this for a second. Your responsibility, because one of the things for me that was a big move in the transgender world. There's a lot of feeling. We grow up in a binary world, and there's a lot of pressure in the transgender world to jump from one binary over to the other binary.
Mhm.
To say that I was a guy and now I'm a woman. And when I was going through in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of pressure to say that you were gonna like all of a sudden be Laura, and then you were going to go live somewhere else, and no one would ever know that I was a guy, and then I would just be Laura over here. But the funny thing about that is that as I was working and realize I'm married, Annie and I have been married 33 years.
Mhm.
She is on this journey with me, and one of the things we found hard as a couple is that if we meet somebody, their perception would be this is a lesbian couple. Now,
Mhm.
Annie's not a lesbian. She's a
Mhm.
cisgendered woman. She likes being a cisgender heterosexual woman,
Mhm.
married to me, who's
Mhm.
kind of special. And so the challenge became, well, if we're going to start talking about, well, when did you guys get, how'd you meet? And you've been married 33 years. Gay people can't be married. That was not a thing 33 years ago. It's like all of a sudden there's this like, how do I hide all of that, or how can I integrate all of that? And for us as a couple, the big to do was just to be comfortable that
Yes.
Annie's married to a transgender woman. And then I can talk about flying B-52s and how fun that was because I was a guy back then. And we can talk about being married in the Catholic Church because I was a guy back then.
And then the B-52 overrides everything else because they're like, forget the transgender part. Tell me more about the B-52
Yeah. Oh,
flying machine.
and then we're off and running, and then they can go home and say, "Well, I met the nicest woman, and she's
Yeah.
transgender." Tell me that
And
happens
then
to
it's
you.
like you when in the process of doing that, you'll be surprised and you'll probably never know how many walls you have knocked down in their minds when it comes to perception and stereotype. And now they're like, oh man, oh, that wasn't so bad. They don't have that, oh my God, that was a gay person, or oh my God, that was a transgender. They don't know they're uncomfortable because they realize for some reason, we're people too. Like I don't know what it is. It's like we're people too. We have feelings and emotions. We're
Yeah.
cool. We can hang out. We can go to the parties and the clubs. We can have a conversation. But it's the awkwardness of them not understanding, not knowing, being scared they might say the wrong thing, or not knowing how to address somebody, or just. But once you start to talk to them, and once they realize, you start having something in common, the relaxation comes on, and then they're good. And now it's like, oh, okay, it's just me having an adult conversation. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
Well, now let's go. I want to go back to I want to make sure we cover a little military issues as well. Um, right now, the current president is not a fan of my kind being in the military, uh, which is funny because I mean, you've been in the military, I've been in the military. You can say what you want, but in my world, GLBT members have always been part of the military. You
Yes,
may not have seen them, but we've all
exactly.
been there. I
Yes.
was there, and a lot of yeah. After coming out of the military and getting involved in the transgender world, I can't tell you how many military people are male to female transgenders. There were there's a lot of people. And my contention, and it's interesting, I went back to an air show and I met a B-52. They had a B-52 on display, and then the crew is there to kind of answer questions. And I walked up, and it was kind of funny. I walk up and I said, well, I used to fly this airplane. They're kind of like, women don't fly this airplane. It's like, well, that's the interesting part. And as we got talking, I said, I'm a transgender woman, and I flew for years, and I came out after I got out. I said, tell me about your experience. Would that be a challenge for you if a transgender person was on your crew? And they all said no.
Exactly.
If you can land the airplane, that's really what I want. you
That's
know?
it. Save my life. If I'm in harm's way,
Yeah.
I don't care what you have going on. I don't care who you're sleeping with, who you're married to. I just want to get home to my family the same way you want to get home to your family. That's it.
I see. I think that it's an important message for everybody to understand because my contention is when you're in the military doing a job or you're in a battle or whatever, it's about we got to get this job done. You
Correct.
know, can you
Yeah,
launch the airplanes? Can
yeah,
you get this job done? Can you watch the radar? Can you do the things
yeah,
that you're supposed to do? And to me, I think one of the things that I think that that there's value in the military uh, is the fact that because of the structure of the military, there is a certain advantage as far as integrating people of
mhm,
different backgrounds together into the job. Because in my experience, I mean, honestly, one of the things, north or south, I mean, there were a lot of people that were from the south. Well, I grew up in Minneapolis, and so all of a sudden I'm in the military, and there's people from the south, and then there's people of color, and then there's Asians, and uh, all of a sudden I'm in a melting pot. And the value to me was, the commander can come along and say, look, dudes, I don't know what you're doing, but get on the job. We're here to do the job. Forget about all this other stuff. Let's just get it done. And then when you're done, then it's kind of like grab a beer and hang out. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, so tell me about your life. And next thing you know, you're integrating in society. Would you say that's part of your experience?
yes, and it really came to a head when I was working at boot camp. I worked at boot camp for the Navy for 4 years, and that was the number one challenge when you have anywhere between 70 and 100 plus recruits from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, and we're telling them you're going to be battle buddies for the next 6 to 8 weeks. This
And that's really true.
you are going to wake up together. You're going to shower together. You're going to eat together. You're studying together. You're marching together. This is your family. This is your home. These are your brothers. My first two divisions were all males. They were all young males from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life. And some of them have never interacted with people outside of their race. They've never had a conversation, or they grew up with beliefs and perceptions and stereotypes from what was taught to them or what they saw on TV because they never got a chance to be culturally diverse by going to a diverse high
Yeah.
school. So they come in, and my job, along with whoever else I was working with at the time, our job was to get them all on the same line in life, to meet the same goal, to accomplish the same mission. And sometimes some of them were a little harder than others, but for the most part, when they all come together, they don't realize that there's strength in numbers. They didn't realize how much they could accomplish by not being judgmental, by not assuming, by not believing everything they heard or saw on TV. They don't realize how much they have in common. And then when they realize, like going back to what you had said earlier, they realize they were not the only ones that grew up in a broken household. They were not the only ones that were abused when they were a child. They were not the only ones who probably thought they were gay and didn't know it's so many
Uh,
things that come out, and they end up forming lifelong relationships. And I think that is the most beautiful part of the military, because there are a lot of people in the military that would not be friends right now, would not have bonds or friendships with the same people they speak to every day if they were never in the military. They probably would never even walk down the street and speak to them. But now their people are friends for life.
yeah. Now, tell me in that experience. I mean, you're with all these male recruits. I can't imagine that there wasn't somebody that said, "Hey, what's she barking out orders for? Who the hell is she?"
Oh
Is that?
yes,
And you're
yes,
like,
yes.
"I'm your commander, and that's who I am."
And so with in Navy boot camp, we have a ship that's a male ship. There's all male divisions in there. But we make sure we put female leadership in there just for that reason, because you have some young guys that grew up being taught that you don't take orders from a female. A female doesn't run you. You only respond to men because for whatever reason, women are beneath the guys. So we have to break that. I tell these I tell them when the new recruits when they come into the military, you are about to be reborn. Your life has start over because we have to unravel everything that was taught to you for the last 18 plus years. And we have to teach you how to walk, talk, speak, eat, dress, march, think, work. All everything has to be taught to you all over again to conform you, to have you form into what a military service member is. And sometimes it's a little more difficult for some than others because of how they grew up and how they were taught.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And to me, that was a value. Truthfully, me joining a fraternity was very similar in that we had football players and geeks and chemistry majors and phys ed majors. And I mean, we just had a whole group. And for me, or being around a whole diverse group was a very important part. My military career obviously included a lot of that as well. And I think that's an important thing. We've got like 2 minutes left. Tell me what, in the land of Courtney Kittrell, what would you want our audience to know about you and your message and where you're headed?
Well, Courtney Kittrell is, I think she has grown to be a very confident, accomplished woman in a short period of life. My message that I want to tell people, it's 2020. It is the year of empowerment. It is the year of no more fear. It is the year of transparency. Live your life, be true to yourself, own who you are, have confidence, and always walk in your purpose.
Wow. I'm with you. I'm with you. Well, Courtney, fabulous chance. Always amazed at how quick a radio show goes because there's so many important things to talk about. But I just to recap real quick, I appreciate your service, your continued service. Um, I really do think that there is value to diversity in the military. So I'm encouraging everybody to not only read your book, you'll watch my show, be around people, get to know other people, because I do think that the value of America has to do with the fact that we are diverse. We need people to look from different angles to solve some of the really challenging problems that we have.
Exactly.
And I really do think that the military is a fabulous way to go. My one word of caution is keep your thinker on. Uh, if you don't have a path, they'll find one for you, and if you can blend your path together, I think that's great. Courtney, thanks so much for being with us. I may have to reach out to you again sometime later in this springtime and see if we can talk more.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's
been a
always fun.
real joy, and I will be in touch with you. Thanks for sharing you and the book, and that will end our show. This is the Laura Meek Show. Remember, go out, dream on, fly high, live adventurously. That's how we do it here at the Laura Meek Show. Have a great day.